Alright, let's see if the technology is actually working here. Go check this out on YouTube. Okay, sweet. It looks as though I am live. Hooray! This is me figuring out new software, by the way. What I'm using for this is called OBS, which is a open source broadcasting system, and I'm trying to see if there is any way that I can... Hang on, this might feedback for a second. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I'm live, and I can see my chat window for once, which is quite the accomplishment. Yeah, and the reason I am doing this today is just that I finished a major video project in that handles review that I published to my YouTube channel this past week, and I am just feeling like having a day where I hang out with a few of my closest friends on the internet and spin and answer some questions if you have any. So, if you can, please send questions my way, and I will be more than happy to answer them. I know that it's a Saturday afternoon, so I have no idea how many people might actually be out there watching this right now. But for those of you that are, I will do my best to answer them. Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to enter anything into the live chat, that'd be great. In the meantime, I can just play around with my Spinoptic Poi right here. Why Spinoptic Poi? Because I threw a video with some Spinoptic Poi on my Instagram last night, and it did really, really well. Let me see if I can get these up to their best brightness here, because it's still daytime, and why not? Cool. I actually think they are as bright as they go. So, if you guys are out there and want to ask me some questions, I'd love to hear it. Altus Clara says, I was debating on buying Future Poi. Do you understand the difference between Future Poi and Future Poi Lite? Yeah, because actually I have both sets. So, Future Poi Lights. Guys right here, and they're designed to kind of like be a... I guess you would call it a quick and dirty solution to having Future Poi, where you don't need remotes, you don't need any of that kind of stuff. You just have like 5 nodes that you can work with and everything. So the good news is that I think they are less expensive, and they still have like all the lovely trails to them and everything. The bad news is that, of course, they're incompatible with the remote controls that Moodhoop sells, as well as the fact that they can't sync up with other sets of Future Poi. So I believe the just standard Future Poi will sync up with the remote and with each other, but the Future Poi Lights don't. If I can be real with you, having used the remotes with these, I will tell you that the remotes are not actually that helpful. They're basically only good for setting up your modes right at the beginning of a performance, if you so choose. But other than that, they're not that terribly useful. You can do all that with the button presses. So if it's a question of price, I would go with the lights personally. You get like most of the same features. If you want to have more than one set that are synced up to each other, then yeah, definitely going with the Future Poi remotes are the way to go about it. But yeah, so I don't know. I hope that's helpful. The one thing I really, really like about these is they've done something that no other kind of strip Poi manufacturer has done, in that they have made it so the weight is really concentrated on the end in such a way that spinning these feels a lot like spinning, like I said, a regular contact Poi or sock Poi or what have you, as opposed to most other sets of LED strip Poi, where you have that problem that the weight is all kind of distributed along the length of it, And so certain tricks, like say stalls, just feel really, really wonky with them. So yeah, that would be my advice on that. Thanks for the question. Cool. We got Josh Jenner saying you are amazing. Why, thanks, Josh. From Marcos de Zul, saludos desde Mexico. Saludos. How are you doing? Floria says, hi, Drex. Hi, how are you guys doing? So, as I said before, I'm just kind of hanging out this afternoon, and I had some software that I wanted to test out for doing live streaming, so that is why I'm currently doing it right now. As I've done live streaming in the past, I've had a problem where I couldn't really see the chat window, and now that is all fixed. I'm also finally able to run the whole thing off of my laptop rather than my phone like I used to be, right? So I'm counting this as a win. And in the meantime, I'm going to spend probably the next half an hour just chilling out in my living room, spinning Poi and answering your questions. Yeah, so I hope you guys are all out there having a great Saturday. I guess I would love to ask you guys some questions too, just because, you know, I'm curious about such things. You know, there's been a lot of talk in the past week on one of the Flow Arts Facebook groups about teacher pay at flow festivals, and I'm curious, those of you guys who are watching who are maybe expecting to attend a flow festival sometime in, you know, the next year and everything, what do you think about the idea of teachers offering private lessons outside of their normal workshops? Is that a thing that you guys would like to see? Something that you don't want to see? Something that you're totally indifferent to? Yeah, just let me know. And it appears we've got more people chiming in right now. Fantastic. Skrillex1 says you should make a remix of other people doing Poi. I mean, I kind of do. That in a lot of respects, I feel like the top 10 list every year is kind of that. I try and, you know, take some samples of the work that everybody's been doing and putting it to music and everything. So what I will say to that is great idea. Let's see here. Hey, Drex, can you show us your one-hand grip you use? Yeah, sure. So the one-hand grip that I use is I keep my thumb end Poi between my index finger and my thumb, and then my pinky end Poi between my pinky and ring finger like this. The bad news about using this grip is that as you start off with it, you are going to have awful calluses, and you're going to strip a lot of the skin off of your hand in between these two fingers right here. It gets better with time. It was really bad when I started. It took about like probably 4 or 5 months for me to build up the calluses enough so that I wouldn't just like tear them straight back off again. But I haven't had any problems with them now in probably 2 or 3 years. So yeah, put in the time and effort, and it helps out a lot. That I will tell you. Cool. Let me see what else we got here. Jordan Bumps says +1 on the one-hand grip. Happy to help out there. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I don't tend to use capsule handles that often, is because I really, really, really dislike this grip right here. I feel like I don't have much control over what I'm doing. I can use it. I have used it, but it is definitely not my favorite. Yeah, keep them questions coming. Also, if you guys out there want to help out the channel, I also have a super chat enabled. So if you guys want, you can tip me via the comment window and everything here, and every little bit helps, even if you've got like, you know, $1 or $2. And of course, if you do me that favor, I will happily put your question to the top of the queue, right? So I'm going to reiterate that question from just a couple minutes ago, because I am really curious about what you guys might have to say about this. If teachers at flow festivals were to offer private lessons outside of their normal workshops, is that a thing that you guys would be into? Is that something that really just like kills the spirit of what we do? Or are you totally indifferent to it? Yeah, please let me know in the chat, because this is actually something I'm super curious about. I've talked about it now with several teachers, and there's quite a number of opinions out there, but when it comes right down to it, you guys are the ones that might be taking people up on those offers. So it would be a good thing for us to know what your opinions are on them. Yeah? Sweet. I didn't think I had enough ceiling height to be able to do that. Cool. Josh Jenner asks, what is the best grip to use? The best grip to use for what would be my question. Because, are you talking about just a single hand, or are you talking about two poi, one hand kind of situation? What I will say, I mean, again, I'm a big fan of using this grip, but it's whatever works for you and whatever is most comfortable for you. It's whatever is. Here's the thing: is what really matters is the amount of time that you invest in your practice. So it's whatever grip makes you want to pick up the poi and spin for hours on end every single day. That's the right grip. Let's see here. Skrillex1 Poi says, is the cylinder poi better or the sphere poi, or both of them, or sphere is better? If you're talking about like contact poi versus other options, if you want to do contact, spherical heads are the best option by far. If you don't care so much about contact, then the ends don't matter that terribly much. So for my practice poi, I almost always go with contact poi that have spherical heads. But my fire poi are these Nova heads, which have more of a barrel form factor to them, right? And the reason for this just is that when it comes to fire, I'm not going to be doing any contact, so the spherical shape is not as important to me. I like the burn characteristics of barrel-shaped poi a little bit more, so that's what I tend to go with for fire. It totally depends upon what type of poi you're spinning and what the effect that you want to go for with it is. Yeah? Let's see here. Michael O'Brien says, I don't see a problem with offering private lessons. I think something like $1 a minute would be reasonable. Hey, I totally agree with that. What an excellent suggestion. $30 for half an hour, $60 for an hour. That's, yeah, I totally with you on that one. $60 an hour is what I charge for a private lesson in the default world. So having that same rate at a flow festival, I think that sounds fantastic. Yeah, good call there. Cool. I'm going to keep on spinning then. So some of you other guys out there, please chime in on this one, because I am really curious. Because there's a lot of different options for how teachers get compensated at fire festivals that have been talked about over the years. One year at Flame Festival, we had what we call the teacher tip jar, where people... after the festival, we sent out an email to all of our attendees via our ticketing system, and we told them that they could go tip their teachers if they wanted to. And part of the theory for this, for us, was we wanted to know which teachers really connected with their students as well, right? And having a student who's willing to tip you a few dollars coming out of your class is a pretty good indication that you connected with them pretty well. And we got like, I want to say 10 or 11 teachers that got tipped through this system. And unfortunately, it was so difficult to set up that we just didn't do it again the next year. But that's kind of an a la carte thing wherein, somebody can, you could even do that at the festival itself. If a teacher put out a hat or something like that. Another option would be, honestly, to increase ticket prices to compensate teachers more. But it would not be a small increase. My guess off the top of my hand is that the average festival would have to increase their ticket prices by somewhere between $50 and $100 to make that work. And then, of course, there's the question that goes with that of, if the teachers are being compensated, then why not some of the volunteers or organizers of the event? The event can go on if those teachers are not there, but it cannot go on without the people who organize it, who help set up the venue and who clean up after everybody's gone and all that. So why should the teachers get paid and them not? It's a good question. And every single additional person that gets paid for putting on those events, that's another few dollars that gets added to the ticket sale. And at what point in trying to compensate people do we make it so that people in the flow arts world can no longer attend these events? Because that would be a tragedy too. So, increasing the price of the tickets, kind of crowdfunding teacher tip jars, teachers offering private lessons at events. What do you guys think would be the best course of action? Love to hear it. Yay, more people have been writing things to me. Josh Jenner says, can you support me on my page? I'm trying my hardest to get better. What page? Like Facebook? Or Skis says, what are your favorite crowd-pleasing anti-brids? I mean, my number one favorite with Bullet is static versus triquetra like this, which I'll turn down my lighting here for just 1 second, give you guys a better idea of what that looks like to the crowd. But I love doing this one because you can just rip it out, and if you do it fast enough, the people in the crowd really, really, really see that triquetra coming out of it, and you know it never fails to get an audience going. Other anti-brids that audiences tend to dig, you know, it's funny because you know vertical cat eye versus isolation I don't feel like is that kind of eye-catching a move, but horizontal versus isolation is definitely one of those things that I feel like even most muggles watching you do this can pick up on the fact that it's kind of hard and will totally give you some applause for this. And of course, you can do that old thing switching back and forth between it and the triquetra and back, depending upon what your mood happens to be. Yeah. So yeah, that one is definitely my favorite. What is the best LED poi for you? Quality / price / practice. And what is your favorite trick right now? Says Loic Brunori. So the short answer is that I don't have a single favorite LED poi, or if I do, they tend to change every couple months. You know, I'm definitely falling back in love with my Spinoptics right now. Part of the reason is that I switched to longer tethers on them, and so now they feel like my normal contact poi. And it has made a huge difference just in terms of like enjoying the feel of them and everything. That, and you can just do the coolest trails videos with these. It's really, really, really incredible, all the effects that you can get when you have the entire tether lit and everything. And you know, if you want to pick up a set of these from Lanternsmith, I have an affiliate code there. Use DrexFactor with a 0 instead of an O at checkout. You get a discount and it helps me out, so everybody wins, right? Of course, so these are kind of my workhorse poi right now, and they are Emoja heads with capsules from Lanternsmith inside, and then the kind of Illumigrips inserts from Protobeam and Sheridan Miller in the handles. And, you know, I get the rope behavior, which I dig. The handles are heavy enough that they'll work for me with all of my different gunslinger stuff and everything. You know, contact is pretty easy with all of it. And, you know, the brightness is what I need it to be. I don't need super bright. But yeah, these right now are my favorites, but I'm also falling back in love with my Spinoptic Poi too. So these, because I have to get parts from a bunch of different companies to make these, I'm not exactly sure how much these wind up costing in the end. I think it winds up being somewhere in the neighborhood of like 150 to 200 bucks. And then I'm gonna get myself in trouble here because I got sponsored with these, so I don't actually know how much they are. I think they're like 200 or 300 bucks, but I could be wrong. Yeah, anyway, I hope that helps. And yeah, if anybody else out there wants to support the channel or what have you, you can leave a tip in the super chat, and I will put your question high up in the queue here. Let's see here. What is your favorite trick right now? Was the other question that you had? Yes. I mean, the trick that I'm just doing to death right now is definitely the anti-brig gunslinger. Simply because, like, you know, watching other people do this trick, I realized that there was a lot of potential for it if it got cleaned up, and I have worked a whole lot on cleaning it up to make sure that the relationship here is a lot more clear. And I'm getting a lot more accustomed to gunslingers. So it's one of those things that when I bust out gunslingers now, it's more often that I'll bust out that trick too, and I'm a pretty big fan of it. Did I send you one of my videos once already? I don't know. I don't know. Are you Skrillex1? Are you talking about a Facebook page? Sorry, I'm still confused on that. M.A. Bergsma, which video should I watch to start learning to use the poise? Hey, I've got a whole beginner series that is available for people who are at the beginning of their journey. If you want to go check, do a search for Poi tutorial on YouTube. It'll pop up on the first page of results. And you know you got the right one because it starts with a video called How to Hold Poi. And that right now is a beginner series that I have, although I am hoping to do a better version sometime this coming year. Just because I have access to a better camera now, and I have different theories on how people learn Poi best since I recorded that one. Josh Jenner says, can you look at my YouTube videos and tell me where I can improve? Maybe. Send me the link to your channel. Yeah, I mean, there are people that I'm consulting with right now on YouTube channels. So if you want, we can maybe work something out like that. You spaz. You're a spaz retard, says Mini Rolls. Spaz. Well, good thing you've got a very diverse vocabulary there, friend. Florius says, over time, have your Spinoptic become more flexible? No, they haven't. So, just so you guys know, this is like the ultimate Spinoptic life hack, which is that you find something that you can hang the tether on and you just leave it there like that, right? Now, what this is going to do over time is it turns out that the materials that they use in the tethers, the fiber optic tubing and everything, is kind of like a memory plastic where it will find the last shape that it held in storage when before you were last spinning it and everything, right? So if you got it coiled up in your backpack and everything like this is the shape it's going to try and find again. And you'll note that when you go to use it for contact or something like that, it's going to try and find that shape again as soon as you're no longer holding onto the tether. Whereas if you keep them stored in such a way that the heads are like bearing down on the weight of it, and you can even see here, there's like a small kink in it from where I just did that. So find a place where you can hang them and have them keep a straight shape. And honestly, like, the flexibility of them was never the big problem. The big problem with them was always that kind of memory feature of them, that they found the last shape that they had held. Yeah? Cool. So, hope that answers that question, Florius. What the hell? Mini rolls. I think you've made your point there, sir. Thomas Nelson says, best tip for first month spinner. You know, honestly, I would say that the best tip is come up with a practice routine. Say like a regular time every day that you're going to sit down and practice for anywhere from like a half an hour to an hour, maybe more. It totally depends on how much time you want to set aside for this. But what you're really looking for is to make practice a regular habit, and you know this is gonna, without a doubt, going to be the most important thing. It is more important than what Poi you're using. It is more important than what tricks you're learning. Just set down that regular practice routine, and that is what is going to push you forward. So I hope that helps. So it looks like there's a bunch of trolls on the chat right now. Yay! Let me see if there's a chat function to deal with these. Cool. All right, that helped. All right, sweet. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions out there? I'd be happy to ask. And again, if you guys are able to throw any tips in the super chat, that would really help me out. Even a couple bucks helps out a lot. You know, running this YouTube channel is my full-time job, and it definitely is something that some days is a labor of love, and some days is torturous. And things like being supporting me through Patreon or through the super chats really help allow me to continue to do this thing. So, if anybody wants to, I'd really appreciate it. Cool. Yeah, so a couple of you chimed in on the question of teacher pay at flow festivals, and I really appreciate that. One of you had said that you thought a rate of $1 per minute of instruction is a fair one. I'm curious if other people also think that that's a fair rate, because you know, it's one thing for people to offer those private lessons, and my girlfriend just got home from her oil change. Hang on just one second. Hey, babe.
Hey.
I'm doing a live stream on YouTube.
Oh.
It's okay.
My internet.
I was going to sign off in 5 minutes anyway. So. Oh, Altus. Yay, thank you. I really appreciate that so much. $2. Yeah, that means a lot, guys. Thank you. Josh Jenner, I'm uploading videos now for you to watch when you're ready. Okay. Can you make a little setup of all of your stuff? A little setup of all my stuff. You mean the stuff that I'm using for video or the stuff that I use for poi spinning? Because I can do both. I'm more than happy to do both. Yeah, anyhow. I guess for poi spinning, sure. Let me grab all my stuff right quick. So, what I'm using for poi spinning right now, this is my primary set, and it is capsules from Flow Toys inside of emoji heads from Lanternsmith, and I'm just using the smithy rope that Lanternsmith has, as well as palm grip handles that have Illumigrips inserts from Protobeam in them. And the thing that I'm really liking about these is that these are a set of poi that I can use both during the day and during the night. I actually very specifically put these together so I could have a set at festivals that I could use just as easily at night as I did during the day, so I wouldn't have to go back to my tent and trade out sets of poi. Yay! Yeah, so this is my current setup, and of course, for my fire poi, I am using, these are from Dark Monk, and actually, hang on just 1 second so I can give you guys a slightly better picture there, yeah? Cool. Awesome sauce. Okay. So for my fire poi right now, I'm using these from Dark Monk, and they are 4-inch Nova heads. I have about 2 or 3 inches of chain connecting onto Technora. I think my total length is somewhere between 23 and 24 inches. I don't actually remember. I got swivels on the end, and they're connected to ultra knob handles. I like this setup. I think I may switch over to palms and Protobeams at some point, just because the battery life is a lot better. But we'll see, because it's kind of in order to do that, I would have to desolder the split rings that are inside these right now, and that's a whole process that I don't know if I actually want to undertake right now. Yeah, and then I have so many other miscellaneous sets of poi. It is kind of a complicated question there. But yeah, for poi spinning. Oh, cool. So I did nail it. Perfect. And then Josh Jenner says $1 a minute is the right price. Perfect. Nicole Tot says, how do I find a prop that motivates me to actually commit to? All my friends are so pro at their props and multiple props. I feel inadequate not being good at anything. So here's the thing, is I'm a skeptic of the whole idea that you find your prop and that's like your thing. Truly, I believe that what happens first is you make the commitment and the prop is secondary. When I first started to learn how to spin poi, it was not a thing that I did kind of saying, oh, I've found this thing that I meant to do, I've found my tool or anything like that. It was very, very, very much a thing of, I had this hobby, and I just read this book called Mastery by a guy named George Leonard. He's an Aikido master. And in it, he talked about kind of like when you want to master a particular skill, you just have to make a certain commitment to practicing it regularly, and the commitment is the real question there. So just for grins, I decided to apply that to poi. It's kind of ironic because like poi spinning from the outset was not something that I got into saying, this is going to be my thing. I'd had many things already that were my thing. I had tried like comic book art, and I had tried being a musician. I still love playing music. And the poi thing was a totally arbitrary decision. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like I felt like I had found my home or anything like that. I was just like, okay, so I'm going to test this idea. I'm going to test this idea that if you just sit down and say, this is my commitment, I'm going to show up to do this an hour a day for the next 10 years. And that's what led to where I am today with poi, honestly. So the commitment comes first. The prop comes second. Make the commitment, and what you're going to discover over time is that the practice itself is the reward. So I hope that helps. Let's see here. Thomas Nelson, 90 millimeter versus 100 millimeter versus tennis balls versus other materials and socks. Best to throw and why? The real question you're asking here is about weight. Because 90 millimeter is going to be heavier than tennis balls, 100 millimeter is going to be heavier than 90 millimeter. And it is really, really, really dependent on how much weight you want to have on the end. Because, the amount of weight that you have with 90 millimeters, turn these on so you can actually see them, is going to have one effect on where the poi isolates as you throw them. 100 millimeter heads are going to have an entirely different effect on where they isolate. Do you see how? So the long and short of it is that it basically shifts the point of rotation. So if I'm tossing a 100 millimeter head, then the point that the whole thing is isolating on is like a few millimeters just inside of the head itself. Whereas if I do that with a 90 millimeter head, do you see how the point that it's rotating around is actually like kind of an inch down the tether? Which is where I like it. That's really the question that you're asking here. In terms of contact, in terms of all that stuff, 100 millimeter, 90 millimeter, tennis balls, it literally makes no difference whatsoever. When it comes to contact, the biggest variable is the length of your tether. That's where your momentum is coming from. Shorter tethers mean not as long a distance for your rolls. Longer tethers mean that you get longer rolls out of them. So yeah, that's the real question there. Cool. I'm at 33 minutes here, so I'm going to call it a day in another 5 if you guys don't mind here. Also too, Altus Clara sent me a tip via Super Chat, which I really, really appreciate. If there are any of you other guys out there that would like to support the work that I do, this is my full-time job, and there are some days when it is easier to put food on the table than others, and even a couple bucks helps me out. So thanks in advance for anybody who wants to support me and support the channel that way. And thank you for Altus Clara for kind of breaking the ice there. Let's see here. Can you explain how stalls work? I see lots of tutorials, but what I miss is an explanation of the feeling of those tricks. Like, where stops the weight and the feeling? Oh, and Nicole Tot is saying thank you. Good. I'm so glad that was helpful, Nicole. So here's the thing, is the feeling should feel almost like nothing as you're doing a stall, right? So if I'm doing this proper, I shouldn't feel any tug on the on the tether whatsoever. But when I get it to this point where it's just like, stop there in space for a second, what I tend to find is the closest thing I can compare this to is feeling like the poi head is going down a drain, and my hand is following it, and the stall actually happens when my hand gets to the edge of the drain. I know that that is not the prettiest imagery, but stick with me here, yeah? And it's really just like letting gravity do its thing. The poi head wants to go down. Gravity wants to make it go down. So if it is in a position where you're letting it go down and your hand just like winds up following it down the rabbit hole until it gets to the very edge, that's the feeling that you're really looking for, you know? If you tried any other method, if you have any kind of a tug on it from your hand, then what you're going to get is this, where it's kind of still swinging at the end of the stall, whereas, boom, like that, you're good. Yeah? Cool. I hope that helps some. And Loic Bernori says, I have the same Fire Poi by on Dark Monk, but I have a problem with my Technora chords. Shibis, also the cover on the chain. Okay, I'm not sure what you're asking me there. You have problems with the Technora? What kind of problems? No Recess says, love you, Drex. Oh, love you, No Recess. Thanks for all the tutoring. Please keep doing what you're doing and expanding the flow. I will do my best. I will do my best. Help me out if you can, either by dropping me a couple bucks on the Super Chat or signing up to support the work that I do on Patreon, because Patreon is literally what is paying my rent at this point. So it is the one and only reason that I'm still able to do this full time. That and you guys helping me out when you can on Super Chats and the like. Yeah, I don't know what the problem is with the Technora. If you could specify that, that'd be super helpful here. Yeah. Oh, Thomas Nelson tipped. Thanks. I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. Yay, Thomas, you got any questions that I can answer for you before we hop off here? I've got about 3.5 minutes left before I want to get moving, and before I'm sure my girlfriend would like to have the use of the living room back. Yeah, anything you want. I'm happy to answer it. Either that or I can just go back to spinning. Oh yeah, here's another question for you guys out there. So I've heard good things about another video streaming platform called Twitch. Are any of you guys out there on Twitch? And if so, like, is poi spinning a thing that happens on there? Because I thought it was just like video games and the like, right? Yeah. Anyways, if any of you guys out there are Twitch streamers or on Twitch, and that's the thing that would be a good fit for poi spinning, let me know, because that'd be rad. Cool. Woo. And actually, you know what's really cool to see? Let me give you guys that anti-brid with the lights down and with these poi, because it really looks like the poi are orbiting around each other, which is part of what I think makes the move look super cool. Yeah? So yeah, hopefully there are more anti-brids to be found out there using gunslingers, because I think it looks so cool. Altus Clara says, I'm on Twitch and I haven't seen much poi. Twitch has in real life streaming, much like this, I assume. But it would probably go well. Interesting. Do you have specific weights you stick to for good head-to-handle balance? No, honestly, I tend to just go with whatever the default weight is that I have. Especially if it's LED handles, you just don't get much of a choice there. You know, if I have, you know, a daytime spinning handle, like, say, for instance, like I have on, I don't know where my other set of contact poi are now. Sorry, guys. Oh, here they are. Yeah, so for these, which were the pair that I used to try out, the Palm Grips 2.0, and water bottle's back. You can go away, friend. So for these, I was using 6 washers, but I don't, like, with handles this size, I don't think it makes a huge difference, to be honest with you. Something like the new, whatchamajigget, the new OVO handles from Lantern Smith have a lot more room inside of them, and thus they can be
a lot more diverse in terms of the amount of weight that you put into them. So yeah. What to do with fuel leftovers? Pour them back into the container from whence they came and shut it up to seal it up. Also, this is a really important thing. If you've got, if you have like a 50-50 mixture, you have to put it in a container for white gas, because with any fuel mixture, you want to make sure that you're putting it in the container for the most volatile fuel in the mixture. Because otherwise there's a possibility of catching some vapors and having it explode, which is not happy for anyone. Let's see here, is in head-to-handle ratio. I don't know what the head-to-handle ratio is. So like, these are heavier than these. It's, you know, again, it's capsules with a palm grip and Night Eyes and the Sheridan Miller inserts. The short answer I will give you is that my handles are very, very light in comparison to some other folks that do gunslingers, and it's taken a lot of work actually to get it to the point where I can make that work. Sweet. A lot less work than YouTube on Twitch, huh? Yeah, that's good to hear. Cool. All right. Well, guys, I am at 41 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. And I really appreciate everybody who's been watching out there. And I appreciate Altus Clara and Thomas Nelson for the super chats. You guys are totally awesome. Thank you for supporting me and for supporting the channel. And thank you guys all out there for watching. And yeah, if you want to support the work that I do, you can jump onto patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi. And also a thank you to the 5 companies now that are supporting the videos that I create, which are Flow Toys, Amazing Lights, Dark Monk, Spin Balls, and Ultra Poi. And if you guys go to Flow Toys or Lantern Smith or Ultra Poi or Amazing Lights, use the promo code DrexFactor with a 0 instead of an O to get a discount on your order, and it helps me out too. And yeah, I guess start buckling down for the winter, guys, because we are entering the part of the year where we get to spin inside. So that's always fun. Anyhow, thank you guys, and I will see you by the bye. Have a good one. Peace.